Okie dokie. So I believe we're live on YouTube. So everybody, thank you all very much for tuning in once again. This is, I believe, your weekly installment of Little Old Me, Sukhi Wahiwala, and the Empower Hours show. This particular series and this particular show is sponsored by the one and only Salam Radio from Peterborough. And if you would like to tune into this application in future, it's going to be salamradio.co.uk, or alternatively tune into the radio channel on DAB. Now, today is episode 55. I can't tell you how powerful and how amazed I am personally, and how powerful our our guest is today. Now, before I introduce him, I was going to give you a quick understanding to what the show is truly about. This is the Empower Hours show. Our mission and our vision is really simple, is to show you people who have achieved, celebrities, individuals who are the best at their game in their environments, showing you that everything is possible and you can achieve, but alternatively also to realize that it hasn't always been what we call plain sailing. In life, sometimes there are challenges that we have to overcome. So I'm going to get straight to our amazing guest this evening. Our guest this evening, his name is Mr. Binde Johal. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I've kind of seen him as a brother for many, many years. We go back, way back, like 2004 to today, and we've still been in communication, and he's been a performer and actor all those years. But I'm going to share something with yourself. This gentleman is not only an infectiously, amazingly positive motivator, a person who spends his time motivating other people and people with what are called visual or emotional disabilities. He is also an actor, and I mean a world-class actor, a gentleman who has been involved in the Harry Potter series. He's been, if anybody knows, basically Dobby. He was one of my favorite characters in Harry Potter. And then on top of this, he's also been the goblins in the bank, and also Creature as well, in the Harry Potter series. He's done Panto. This gentleman, I can't actually tick every single box that he's done. I'm not even going to do a brilliant justice to him, but I'm going to give you the best I can. He's worked in panto, in acting. He's been a performer, a performance arts individual, a person who's been involved in, you could say, high-end anchoring and performances with events. And this is how we actually got to know each other, through a mutual friend of ours called Clem. But we'll touch back in a moment. So welcome, Binde. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Sasikal. Hello, welcome. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you all out there in internet land and all around the globe, I suppose. YouTube, right?
Yes, absolutely. So it is the globe. We have a following. The Inspired Tribe has a following all over all the 6 hemispheres of the world, complete every single environment. So we've got people from Asia Pacific all the way through to Asia. We have them in the Africas, we have them in Middle East, and we have individuals in Europe. And nowadays, obviously, not Europe, but UK and the Americas as well. We've got everybody covered here. You are in for a delight. Binde, you really are a wonderful gentleman. You're a person who's full of bubbles, full of energy, full of focus, and a can-do attitude. I've been tracking you for such a long time to try and get you onto this show. So today is a really big one for me, that I can have my brother Binde Johal here today.
Sukhi, thank you so much. Oh, you do me. You make me out bigger than I really am. I'm just a simple guy living on this simple planet, just an everybody trying to be a busybody, I suppose, if you know what I mean, in a good way. But no, thank you. I appreciate that.
Welcome. It's genuine and it's true. Okay, so I'm going to touch a few things. We do this very systematically with the Empower Hour. It's just to prove how real life is real, and sometimes life gets in the way, but how we move ourselves further beyond that point. So I'm going to touch base, if I can, a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind, at this particular phase. We talk about Binde. So where are you from? Are you British born? Your background, city you're in? Are you one of how many children?
Right. So yeah, I'm British born. I'm what you call a second generation Punjabi Sikh from India. My parents are from India. I live up here in Nottingham, Nottinghamshire, just north of Nottingham. We've moved out here just to the suburbs about 25 years ago now, actually. But Originally, I'm from Leicester. I was
Leicester
born,
massive, Leicester
yeah,
massive.
massive, yeah. I've got two siblings. I'm the oldest of three. My brother and my sister. Sorry, I have a sister younger than me, then a brother who is just a year younger than her.
Mhm.
So pretty much back to back. But I'm the oldest. But funnily enough, the shortest. But we'll get to that
We'll
later.
get to that without a doubt. There's a certain magic to that conversation, which we'll be covering soon as well. I just want to touch base a little bit on there. Is we spoke about you. We met when you were performing arts. Okay, so we met via a very close friend of ours called Clem. But your journey wasn't always as it is right now, right? So just a little touch base, if you don't mind. I mean, how was school life like for you?
Well, school life started off, well, obviously in Nottingham, because we moved from Leicester to Nottingham when I was about 3 years old, because of my mum and dad found some work in textile factories, actually, what my mum did.
Mm.
And
Nottingham, very well known for textile, lace, and stuff of that sort of nature. Yes.
well, India is, isn't it, really? And
Mm.
how it has been. So my school years, yeah, I started off at a very a wonderful school, actually. School for, at the time, it was called for special needs children with disabilities or difficulties, uh, going into the comprehensive population of students. Where I started off in a nursery department, and gradually, if you can imagine a square shape, so we had the nursery, junior, then it went off into the comprehensive side. So it was all in one, about 80 students, wonderful school, wonderful teachers. Really, they gave me the foundation of who I became. Being a British Indian, life at home was obviously very structured, and speaking in Punjabi dialect. We're going to school was very English, British, speaking the English dialect, and kind of the two worlds were together but kind of separate. And I explained that in another way.
So
I I yeah.
just to touch base, if I can, sorry to interrupt you there, but just touch base. So you were in a school with 80 students, 80 pupils, should I say? And so that was a special school specifically in that era. So we're talking 80s, right?
80s, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
And that was still Nottingham. What school was that then?
The school was Aspley Wood School in Aspley, Bilborough.
What was it called again? Sorry?
Astley Wood.
Astley Wood. Got it. Yeah.
Astley
Hmm.
Wood. In Bilborough, which is which if you know Nottingham is the centre of Nottingham.
Yeah, it is.
Um, and 80 students, mainly 80 to 90 students of all different backgrounds and disabilities. And yeah, I started in the nursery department, made my way to the junior section eventually, throughout the late 80s. Then by early 90s, like 90, 91, I went into the senior department, which was fantastic. I had some amazing teachers there, very caring, very understanding. And sometimes it's a shame there's not so much schools like that anymore nowadays, I feel.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to say about that is, which is good, disabled people and students and children are more pushed to go into comprehensive schools, which is good as well.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. Yeah. So just a question to yourself, if I can. So when we're talking about disabilities, okay, so it's you have what we classify as in essence, a restricted growth syndrome, or restricted growth as
Yeah,
a
condition.
medical
Yeah,
condition. Yeah.
yeah.
So in context of that, and by the way, audience, just to let you know, you should know me by now that I'm very humbled in the space and I'm very sensitive in this arena. But it was actually Binde who said that he would like to share this conversation with everybody else. So it's actually something that he regularly shares and inspires individuals as a motivational speaker as well. So the question I'm going to ask yourself, Binde, if you don't mind answering, is at what sort of age did you start to feel or realize, or was this a genetic identification from birth? Did you know immediately that was the case, or not you, but your parents and yourself? And then we were talking a little bit about it earlier on with reference to a certain age when they overtook you in height, and it started to become more apparent between 7 and 8, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up normally. Like I said, I'm the oldest of three. I eventually realized by the age of kind of 5, 6 years old that my brother and my sister, who were a year younger than me, started growing up, started getting taller, or to the same height as I would by the age of 7 or 8 at least. Definitely by 9 years old, they were towering over me, because I was about 3.5 foot then. I'm 4 foot now, and I'm 41 now. So, but I kind of stopped growing about 11 years old. So basically, almost going into comprehensive, so going into senior school, and touching back on Aspley Wood School, I was there as a student, and at the time, I think it was John Major, the Prime Minister, that put into Parliament that disabled children, people, just trying to kind of go in the comprehensive school side of things, mainstream schools. So
to integrate, is that right?
Integrate, absolutely, yeah. Integrate. It wasn't for everyone, but it was for me. In these special needs schools, they could see certain students who would flourish going into comprehensive mainstream schools. So I was obviously one of them, and a couple of my best friend was as well, funnily enough. And
so just to touch base, you were selected then. So were you identified and said, we think Binde will do really well within an integrated larger school?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, great. So you're showing a real sign of knowing yourself quite early in age, yes?
Yeah, showing definitely confidence, which was always nourished at that school, and I would be grateful for that school for building the foundations in my life, as well as my family, obviously. However, whilst I was at the comprehensive school, I was taught about being unique and being different. I never thought I was. I always thought, this is me. This is how I am. Obviously, I knew everyone was getting taller than me, because my peers were taller than me. My friends out of school were getting taller than me, and start to get into early teenage age. And I was still being, short at 4 foot tall. But it was never an obstacle or a problem. If anything, at my previous school, at Aspley Wood School, they got me into, for some reason, I found a fantastic teacher, Mr. David Coleman, who I still keep in touch with now, and he might be watching this.
So a quick hi out to David. There we are. And obviously we know this, but usually, I'm sure of the same ilk, we're cut of the same cloth. We end up calling ourselves our senior teachers, even though we may be grown adults with children. We still call them Mr. Coleman or Mr. whatever they are. We don't really call them the full name.
I saw him many years later, and I still called him Mr. Coleman. He goes, no, call me David. Yeah. I'm like, it doesn't sound right to me, David. So you're still Mr. Coleman. And he got me into, he was a great acoustic guitar player, fantastic guitar player. And he got me into singing and doing performing arts. And they'd always say, get Binde up on stage, or get Binde to do this music class and stuff. So this is from the age of, I'm going back from the age of like 7, 8 years old into 9, 10 years old before I left. So I was into a lot of the plays. We did a lot of, we did Joseph and his Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. I think we did like 2 nights on a Thursday and a Friday night. So parents bought tickets to watch us. So that was the thing in my mind. I thought, wow, I'm quite good at this. I'm enjoying this.
I can, yeah.
This kind of people staring, watching me, and this is me.
Can I just touch on something there? Because he saw something in you, and he ignited this character within you, and kind of did, from what we remembered. Am I correct in saying that it kind of gave you this inner confidence, which you were talking about, and I'm pretty good at this, but it also engaged your feelings. You said that you could really connect from inside out and actually portray the role really well. And tell us a little bit about this. Yeah.
So when I mean, I was always into music. Now, with our background in I did go back to now going back home, you know, but from a Sikh family, Punjabi, we listen to a lot of diverse music, a lot of Bhangra. I'm sure you've heard it out there. Everyone,
the folk cultural music, for the
yeah,
Sikhs.
all cultural music. So I was always into stuff like that. Like at the time, there was a group called Achanak. I bet you remember Achanak.
Very well. I've had Binde Johal on this as well. Yeah,
I used to love that song. There was Johnny Z. If you remember Johnny Z,
very much so. Also later known as Taz, wasn't he?
I can't remember, but I used to always kind of at parties and stuff with all the aunties and the uncles, we put a song on and they get me dancing about the room and stuff. Oh, it's serious, yeah, real serious. So how I didn't get a chip on my shoulder when I got older, I don't know how, but some people probably thought I did, but that's where it all came from. Wasn't my fault, it was their fault.
Actually,
Bindi, dance like Johnny Z and do them songs, and I was all right.
So you took center stage from a very young age, anyway.
Yeah, any kind of, you know, the wedding videos or the birthday parties, we'd have the camcorders out, you know, and they film it, and you'll be someone's function, and then that's the one.
Sorry, if you're not aware of that, we're just idolizing some of the songs that Johnny Z. He will be I'm hoping to get him on the show soon as well. But Johnny Z, aka also known as Taz, these days, but in between he was also known as Stereo Nation. So yes, please carry on.
Oh, you know more than me. Well, you would know more than me, Sukhi, of course. Of course, Baji. Yeah, so Achanak as well, and groups like that. So yeah, with the diversity of music I was listening to, and obviously back then we had radio station, maybe one radio station you'd listen to somewhere in Leicester. You know, you get it on FM or something. Not like nowadays, obviously. So I always loved music. I always remember that. I always loved my music. You know, obviously Michael Jackson and Bros and all that stuff along them lines. So when I went into school, and Mr. Coleman always got me into listening to the Beatles, or you know, stuff back in his era, you know, in the 60s, and that's what really got me into playing guitar and learning to play the guitar and sing songs, and you know, then we did the plays at school, and it kind of that's when it clicked in my mind that you know, they see something in me, so it's only they're bringing something out of me.
Yeah.
So it's only fair that I, you know,
participate and take action as well. Yeah.
I could have quite easily have curled up in a ball and gone, "Oh, I'm not doing it," but then they wouldn't made me do it. But obviously they saw I could perform and sing songs.
Yeah, and that's something within you that they ignited, which basically the grit. You know, you said, I don't know why me and why this and that. Well, actually, logically, Binde, you obviously had a great upbringing, and that's the bottom line. You had a great support system around you, and also you are somebody sincerely brilliant at what you do. So you can't take that away. I know you're going to be humble and say it's not. I don't everything you're talking about me, but you know, I can tell you from an observer's view, if I may. So I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions, if you don't mind, just a little bit about this scenario, about your journey and what you've been achieving. You know, we talk at this particular point, we talk about the defining moment in your life, something specific that really kind of carved your way forward, kind of connected you with yourself. Because we, even as a child, and obviously with a disability, which you're just sharing yourself, of the restricted growth syndrome, and obviously brittle bones as well. You know, that's another addition. So we've got to remember that's a major part of this as well. And you embraced that and accepted it, which I think was quite important, because there's so many individuals who I know who are having that disparity. Sadly, you know, with our heart goes out to everybody. Sadly, they're having disparity at that particular time in their life, where they're not accepting the fact that there's a possibility that something's different about them, because we're all unique individual with a unique version of the world. So what specific within you, Binde, really switched that defining moment that you thought, do you know what, this is me and this is what I've started to become? Please, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about that.
I can only emphasize on when I was doing my singing at my school, Mr. Coleman, Mr. David Coleman, he got me into the performing arts side and showing vocal and range and voicing my projection into the back of the back of the PE hall, shall I say, where the plays were put on. There was another teacher, however, I forget her name, but she came to my 9th birthday party at home. She's on our, 9th birthday party video at home.
Wow.
Dancing to Achanak and everything, lovely lady. I forgot her name. It's so wrong of me, but
yes.
Bless her. She said, "Oh, by the way, they do a choir over at the comprehensive school down the road," and she got in touch with my mum. And my mum says, "Yeah, that's fine." So every Saturday, my mum and her got on really well. So every Saturday, she picked me up from my house and take me to this school where they do choir lessons. Like there was like at least 20, 30 children of my age at the time, of 12, 14 upwards. And you got to remember, this was a comprehensive school now. So I'm going from a kind of soft, mollycoddled, disabled school, if you will, to a, out there in the real world. It's kind of like the scenario of a little big fish in a little bowl, and I'm the little fish in the massive swimming pool out there.
Respectful, yeah.
And that's when I realized, wow, I really am different, because at the age of 12, 13, 14, the kids nowadays, they're 5.5 foot tall, and here was little me coming in with my shiny shoes on and my, nice shirt and stuff, and walking in and singing these songs in this choir lesson on a Saturday morning. And then I suppose that was a defining moment, if I really think about it. They were great. I mean, they were fantastic. They looked afterwards.
Could you say, sorry to interrupt you there, but I do apologize. I'm really excited about this conversation, and I know you're my brother. That's why I'm talking to you very openly about this. So that was, you would say, a defining moment when you started to realize that you were present and you arrived with your own identity, swagger, and style. Is that right? Yes?
Well, I mean, do we all know our identity when we're 12, 13, 14 years old? Not
probably
really.
not, but I think what you're rightly saying there is we probably don't. But there is a semi sort of like even a transitional identity, isn't there?
Absolutely.
Which is about character.
Absolutely. I mean, with me, the significant part was coming out of this school, like I said, and going to this big school. And funnily enough, a few years later, I ended up, like I said, John Major did this, this change of schools, and I ended up going to this Glazel Comprehensive. It's still there. It's in not far from Aspley, in Bilborough, and I ended up being a pupil there as one of the. And I finished my I went in at year 9, and I finished till about till 11.
Yeah, 11. Just to check on something, I just want to understand. So I think if you're a school teacher out there, what we're just trying to share here is that what's really warming and humbling is to realize the power and the significance of a school teacher within our children's lives. Two significant individuals, Mr. Ward and the other lady from the high school, had such an effect on Binde's sort of world and life that you can see clearly that as a school teacher, you are such a significant part of everyone's world and life to build that character and confidence. And today, I just want to share, and I want to thank all of our school teachers, my own as well, over the years who have built our character without a doubt. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't believe, Binde, we're actually halfway through. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to do a quick synopsis if it's okay with yourself. So if you've just joined us, this is the Empower Hour episode 55 with Binde Johal. He is an actor and entertainer, and you're going to learn a little bit more just in a moment. Please rewind back and understand all his journey through his what we call growth restrictions or restricted growth syndromes, and how he started to find himself as a defined individual, turning up at school, as he said, with his shirt and tie and polished shoes, and being his own dapper, something completely unique and completely new, and how significant school teachers were for him. So thank you for that. And please do scroll back if you've just joined the live. You can just scrub back and watch again. Back to you, Binde. And it's something that's really touched my heart whenever I spoke to yourself. And you and I, we met each other.
Yeah.
Goodness me. Was it about 15, 16 years ago?
Easily, yeah. we were trying to work it out earlier, but yeah.
Yeah, I'd say 15, 16,
I'd say
2004,
Yeah.
16 years, yes?
Yeah.
And in those days, if I remember, I'm just going to recognize some of my counterparts, my brother, my siblings. It was for a company which we used to run called Ice Direct, and we were the largest, virtually one of the largest independents in the top 3 anyway of the country, selling car audio and custom high-end bespoke audio and online sales. Now, we used to have this event annually, biannually, once in January, if you remember, and once in August.
Yeah.
And there used to be these, what we call them, ICE Lives. And we kind of defined that industry genre when we used to have these events, and we used to have the most amazing vehicles and cars. I'm not sure if you can remember those moments, and also the acts that you as a team with Clem actually used to come through. And I just want a quick shout out to all of our team ICE in those days. Everybody who was a member of Team ICE in those days, if you can remember, from ICE Direct in Vengate, Peterborough. My brother Bob Wahiwala, who was a senior member of my life as well, and an inspirer to myself, and also Manu and Shanu, and also Rob, Ozzy as we knew him as, and the whole team, Keith. We had Dizzy, we had Collet, Paul, we had everybody in the audience as well. I'm not going to name out nearly 15, 16 names, but the whole ICE team and all of our senior sort of like members as well. I mean, what do you remember of those days?
Well, I want to give a big shout out, as you're giving a shout out. It's only fair I say, one love. Clem and Maureen, one love. Lovely people, fantastic people. I still keep in touch with them all the time. They're great. I mean, I can't even speak highly of them. In fact, they took me to another level of my entertainment and performing arts career. Being out there and in public. We did a lot of corporate events, parties, nightclub entertainments. They did fire shows, if you remember, Sukhi.
Yes.
The Stilt Walkers, and we did all sorts of acts where I was I think Mini Me was the main thing, if you remember, Austin Powers, and we had all that Vern Troy, Mini Me stuff going on. So obviously I fit.
Two characters always shout out to me. We had Mini Me, which is from the Austin Powers.
Yeah.
And we also had you. That was it, Ali G. You remember that, don't you?
That's right. Yeah, I was dressed as Ali G. So I did the Ali G thing, because that was all Bo Selector was all. They both Ali G's program.
Ali G before that, yeah.
Right. So I just got in costumes and went along with them. I already did this previously for some other friends of mine, but just as every now and then. But then they got in touch with me through a friend who was one of the performers there, and then I went along with them, and that's how we met you guys.
Yes, that's right. We had the most tremendous time, and I can remember the day that we actually met the very first time, way back in 2004, and we kind of popped out, and you turned up with Clem. And by the way, I wish to have Clem and Maureen onto the show sometime in the future as well, and my heart goes out to them in absolute generosity of love. And what we did basically is you had a part of the act, and I can remember coming out, and you were dressed up, and as I said to you, as Ali G. And it was quite humorous. We had this little funny banter, if you remember, Bindi. And then I started talking to you. And then, well, out of nowhere, audience, I just remember, he turned around out of nowhere and just started saying, "Giddan." And basically, "Giddan" is for us Punjabi people is kind of like a slang hiya. How you doing? And I looked at him, I thought, oh, this is a young Italian guy, and he's basically just learnt a few Punjabi words, and I thought, yeah, how you doing? Like this. And then all of a sudden he just rifted into this complete Punjabiness. And I went, are you Punjabi? Are you Asian? And he went, yeah, I'm a Sikh, I'm a brother, look, my kara. You remember that, innit? Can you remember that moment?
I was like, wow, really? You shouted in Bobby, you said, come here, I want to introduce you to somebody.
That's right. I called my brother as well. I said to him, come and have a look. Let me tell you, this guy's he's an Asian guy. He can talk Punjabi. It was so cool. So I'm going to touch base if I can move a little bit further forward. There's something that comes in my brain that makes me just want to touch base on a few things. And you haven't unachieved. Trust me, you are such a humble guy. And, Warwick is a communal friend of both of ours. Warwick Davis, that is, if anybody else doesn't know, also from the Harry Potter series as well. But my question to yourself is, how did you transition into acting as well, Bindi?
Well, while I was doing the Ice Direct entertainment show with One Love and you guys, Ice Direct and One Love, at the same time, I actually signed up with an agency which is for restricted growth actors, performers, actually run by, at the time, Warwick's father-in-law, Peter.
Oh.
Yeah, his father-in-law, and Willow Management is still around now. And there's some others that are out there now as well. They've got a couple of other people doing them, but they were the main people I went to. And they first, I tell you what, the first thing we did, I met them, Warwick, this was in Derby, only literally down the road where I live, all places in the world. And we did Dwarves in Showbiz. So that was the first thing I did with Warwick Davis. Okay. And it was called Dwarves in Showbiz for Channel 5. And that was just before I saw you guys. So I was kind of, getting into the realm of performing arts, and they came and followed me and a crew to Hartlepool up north, and we did a nightclub gig and stuff like that there, fire shows, and yeah, that's how it really all began, really.
Wow. So that was the transition in. And just to touch on that, basically, you also went into acting. We're going to touch a little bit Harry Potter and the series there as well, because you actually played one of my favorite characters, but I'll tell you that in a mo. And I'm not sure if the audiences really understand it. This is such a significant moment. We have a brilliant actor here amongst us as well. I'm very, very humbled to have you here, Binde. You also did panto. You've done panto and stage shows, right?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. So my first pantomime was in Manchester, actually, at the Royal Theatre up there, which was obviously through Willow again. And I just went into it wholeheartedly, really. Went for an audition. They said, "Oh, we really like the way you do. You fit one of the 7 that we want." And there you go, another little niche to the thing there, tick. And
well, I think you obviously 7, so that means you did Snow White.
Snow White, 7 Dwarfs, absolutely.
I just thought,
I can't remember which one I was at. I think I was Cheeky at the time with a grin like.
Yeah, I think that one's pretty spot on.
Yeah, I played Snoozy, Cheeky, and Grouchy. So
the Grouchy doesn't fit with me yet. I haven't heard that one, the grumpy one, right? But basically the other one's there. But you're great. So anything you can remember from that era?
Yeah, I mean, we had thousands of people coming to the theatre, or into the auditorium, into the theatre. And this was literally, this is one of that stuff I did at school. This was for real, This is a proper paid job, you got to perform. And we're there for 6 to 8 weeks in total, including rehearsal. And I took it in my stride, really. And then I suppose that the high point was I performed here in Nottingham at the Royal Theatre with some of my family came to watch. And my son was very young; he's only 3 years old at the time, and he was in the audience, and he went, "Daddy." It's quiet, and he went, "Daddy," and everyone started laughing. And I always remember that.
That would have been so funny because that would have been a part of the panto, right? Communication back and forth. But a question to yourself: performing. Very hello to everybody, by the way, for your sign, etc. And I know he's not 3 years old anymore, right? But there we are. So a little feedback, a little question I've got in my head is: you're performing, and how do you get yourself ready for that performance? Facing the first time, can you remember back when you were going from school to transitions at sober period, and now you're dealing with maybe 1,000 or 2,000 people in an auditorium?
Well, obviously, discipline comes into a lot of it, discipline and focus. And, I was in my early 20s then, and obviously at that time, you're still young and, you want to go out and about, but discipline, focus, and just having a camaraderie with the people. Like when we came to see you guys at Ice Direct, you made us feel very welcome. We felt like a family, and all of us got together really well. So you do the same wherever you go. You take that aura with you, whether it's an auditorium or whether it's a new film that they're making or something. You try and always get on with groups of people that you can get on with.
And no, you don't.
I ain't even going to go there.
Okay, sorry about this, audience. We've got a real fun click with each other. We've known each other for such a long time, and he's just a great character. And to be honest with you, a great funny character, comedian type of individual as well. So a question that I'm going to ask yourself, if I may, Harry Potter. Come on, wow. Harry Potter. I know Warwick was a key part of the stimulus of that as well, but you played one of my favorite characters, and it sounds very odd, but the whole Harry Potter series, I think you were in 3 or if not 4 of the actual, am I correct, in the movies? You played You played Dobby, and you also played the goblins, and you also played Creature as well, right?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I did mainly I did with the goblins in
Hmm.
Gringotts, in the Gringotts Bank. And actually, funnily enough, only 2 years ago, they've got the new Warner Brothers Studios down there now, and down at Leavesden, and it's massive. And they've actually opened a new Gringotts section where people can go in, and they asked me at the time to go down, and they filmed me actually getting the prosthetics and all the facial done and the eyes put on, and
Yeah, if you look at the promo, we've shared those images, haven't we? We've
yeah,
shared them. Obviously, they are under copyright from the Harry Potter series as well. But what was it like getting all this prosthetic on? Because it takes hours, right?
took hours and hours. Yeah, so literally we got up. We were in the chair by 5 a.m, and we was in probably the chair 2.5 to 3 hours to be on set for 8:30, 9. So yeah, it takes 3 to 4 hours, but depending on how what they want to, what feature you were. Luckily, at the time I was in Prisoner of Azkaban, and I did part 1 and part 2 of the Deathly Hallows, which they sliced into 2, didn't they? But yeah, I did mainly with goblins, and then I did also the Creature. If you remember, he's the Sirius Black elf who's
Sirius Black, yeah.
yeah, so he's in that family. So I was like with the arms and going along the table, and then we had all these dots and spots put on us, and I believe they used a bit of Dobby footage as well of me, just standing in, basically. It's called standing shots. So the actors, Daniel Radcliffe, who plays Harry Potter, and the rest of them would talk to me, and I'd talk to them back again, obviously with the dialogue. So yeah, it was a fantastic experience. And like I said, it was a nice little niche to go back last year and do this. So as you walk into the Warner Brothers studio, they have it up on the TV monitors. You're going in. Maybe about a lot of you guys know that out there. But yeah, they filmed me, and it was a privilege. It was a proper honor to do that.
Oh, so it's like the amusement. So I haven't actually been there. It's one of our plans. Well, it was one of our plans this year, but obviously now with COVID, and our heart goes out to everybody who's been affected by this 100%. And also, we mentioned Leicester earlier on, and I wish everybody, please stay safe and stay at home, because we are kind of like touching on that second phase, and I hope it does not escalate. But please, be aware of yourself, and our message goes out from both of us to be in that space. So just touching base on the Harry Potter theme, the actual show itself, and the attraction. So there's like a promo in the video. So you came into that as well. So you've done videos, and you've also done the promo video with them. Is that right?
Yeah. What they have in stock is obviously that the suits are already made, the prosthetic facial features that they've already got. So they just asked me, who I wasn't doing, and I went in, and yeah, they have a promo as you're walking in to the Gringotts section. I think they actually get commissioned for advertising this, to be honest. But
It could be, That's what. Come on, and here we are, Harry Potter. We want a bit of a commission for this.
Come on, Warner Brothers.
Oh, brilliant! So, just a question to yourself. I mean, I think we glossed over something a little bit that was I thought was quite significant. If I may, just touch base that. When you blue dots. I mean, this is really important for me to just share with everybody else, because there was Andy Serkis is also the world-renowned individual who runs through. He played Caesar in Planet of the Apes. He played the original Gollum from Lord of the Rings, and he's also from our end of the world as well. This around the East Anglia area.
Amazing actor, yeah.
That's right, an actor, and now he's gone into actually controlling the blue dot type style of acting. He does his own academy of training. How did you find it? Was it easy to transition from acting, or did you just forget the fact that you had these dots on you and you just basically delivered, and then they could mask over with the graphics? Yeah.
Well, yeah. Performing obviously in theatres and productions and doing TV work, you kind of get an understanding of working around other performers and actors as well. I mean, obviously this was like, the best highlight at the time, because Harry Potter is huge and was huge, definitely 2009 and onwards. But I found it very, very easy, really. Not being, obviously I was overwhelmed of where I was, don't get me wrong, and I was humbled as well. But I had to point out, it wasn't just me. There was probably 60 other restricted growth performers and actors who are also in the Harry Potter films and onwards, playing different parts and maybe at the back or at the front or something. So I don't want to say it was just me, but I managed to get onto what's called the A team, which was probably nearer to Warwick Davis and Matt, which was, you know, brilliant.
Well done, and that's from all of us. And a quick shout out to a little niece, extended niece of mine, my niece from my wife's side in Nottingham, Simrit Kaur, and she's an absolute avid fan. And so out to all of the people who are Harry Potter fans. And if I can just ask you to say a quick hello to her.
Yeah, hello, Simrit. Happy to see you. I play creature, a little bit of Dobby, but I do the goblins, and I'm one of the cheeky little goblins in the bank. So nice to meet you.
Thank you for that there, Binde. I'm going to ask a couple of questions, Binde, if you don't mind. Just because we're moving towards, I can't believe how quick. We've only got 15 minutes left. Did you know
that? We could talk forever, right? Yeah.
It's been quite magical, I think. In our world, when you've created such scenarios where you've faced adversity to an extent, as you said, there was a time in your life when you started realizing that you were not, and by the way, this is something that we've already pre-discussed in case everybody thinks that I'm putting Binde on the spot. I'm not. I wouldn't do that. And so the question I've got to ask yourself is that, are there any beautiful sort of like words of wisdom that you could share with somebody else who might be facing something similar in this vein of this area, this arena, where they may feel themselves slightly, obviously we're all absolutely unique and we're all different to each other, but you go into this realm of motivational speaking, you've started to talk and share and communicate and change a few lives here and there. Also, we're working together to take this journey into a next level, but do you think you could share a few words of warmth from inside yourself to say how a person can actually try to find themselves, maybe?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, we always question in everything we do in life, don't we? Whatever it is, whether it's family, friends, you know, work related or personal. I just think if you can be get in touch with your inner self, and that's by being. What I find is I do it simple. I just say I believe in God, and I believe it's God's adoration of a treasured gift. And I think if you can, whether it's a God of your own understanding, or whether it's a higher power or a cosmic ordering, you know, anything along them lines, I think if you can tap in, just say it out there, just spread the word with yourself, and you will find you will reap the rewards that will come your way.
Wow, what lovely words of wisdom there. And if a person's feeling a little bit lacking in confidence, because sometimes polishing your shoes and turning up and shooting boot and being loud and being the center of attraction it's a particular profile. I talk about this quite deeply within psychometrics, but are there any words of wisdom you could probably, if there's a child or somebody who's facing a similar sort of growth restriction or restricted growth syndrome, that they could probably lean into and try to just pull themselves up and say, come on, I can do this as well, because you're a real can-do person?
Well, you got to remember, I mean, I'm 41 now. So before when I was younger, this age, that age we're talking about, there wasn't social media, the internet. I think the social media is a fantastic way of getting yourself on a platform to where you can motivate yourself by talking and interacting with other people. Obviously, there's a few people out there that I know that are already doing that. But if you're young and finding it difficult, the only thing I can recommend is that you, like I said, use social media if you can in a correct way and a positive way. Don't listen to any people picking on you. Don't listen to anyone bullying you. They've all got their own insecurities. That's why people do stuff like that. I have to say, when I was at my secondary school, comprehensive school, I never got bullied. I hear all these stories of people getting bullied, and I never did. But nowadays, it's all on, the internet. But try not to focus on that. Ignore that. Follow your direction. Follow the way you want to go, and it will all be fine.
Wonderful words. So am I correct in saying that if a person is having or facing some kind of discrimination of any kind, that they should ask themselves who am I and what do I want to be? And then basically take that sage towards that, irrelevant of what other people say. Because there's an old saying that I share quite regularly in our trainings and educations and my mentoring, private mentoring, is what others think of me is none of my business. That doesn't mean it's an arrogant feeling. It's about, do you know what? It's actually having the respect factor that somebody else actually has a different version of my world. So what others think of me is their business, it's their version of the world,
Right.
and based upon their categorization of the world. So if you can see yourself as a being of light and somebody who's out there to share whatever you were gifted for in this world, because you just said at a moment that you were chosen to share some knowledge, right? Is this kind of like, you, when we in our preamble conversation, you said, you know what, I feel really special. Is that something that still resonates with you today?
Yeah, absolutely. If I think back to my career, I mean, I realized when working with especially short restricted growth performers and actors, I was on an even keel now. You know, it wasn't unique me, because we're all unique. We're all different individuals, and there were different, let's say, positive and negative vibes of that in that world, like there is in the normal world, let's say, the tall world or whatever you want to call it. But
Everybody normal, even there's no, in that space, it's just another world, right?
another world, absolutely. And you got to remember, I never saw a short little person until I was in my 20s,
Mhm.
until I started. So you talk about, you know, a significant factor in my life. Before that, in my 20s, I never met anyone that looked like me. And I really didn't. You know, like I said, we didn't have social media, nothing like that. So I found that as not a shock, but I found it interesting how I would be perceived. And I mean, there's confidence and then there's arrogance. And sometimes you can be overconfident. People take for arrogance, or, you know, the other way around. It just depends. You know, there is a thin line there. And I'm sure we've all been there with work or at work or with family or whatever. You know, I'm sure we can all.
Sometimes, as you touched on it earlier in the conversation, that, you know, sometimes actually becoming, well, enhancing and accepting who you are, and sometimes arrogance as a whole, it is obviously, arrogance creates ignorance, creates lack of understanding of oneself. But arrogance, or the identity, pride in who you are, adds to your character without the arrogance, so you can kind of just have an identity. That's what you're talking about, because, you know, showing up. And what was really touching and really amazing there is, you said, when I saw somebody else in my early 20s, it gave me a perception of a perspective of how they were, right?
Yeah,
How
absolutely.
somebody else could see you. Is that right?
Yeah, and in a way, you have to not be at their level, but I won't say competition. I'd say more of a kind of a curiosity of their lives. If you know
Lovely way.
what?
Yeah, lovely way of saying it. So were you really popular then?
Was I popular?
Yeah, were you center of attraction and say, hey, Bindi's in the house?
Um, I was. There was one person that said to me once, you're a little bit like Marmite. They either like you or they don't like you. You know, so I was told straight down the line like that, I understood that. You're not going to get on well with everyone. It's not possible. But you know, you can, what you bring to the table, what you bring to them, as long as you bring humility, respect, and don't invade their understanding of what life is, then I think it's all good.
And acceptance is wonderful. Well, Bindi, I'm going to say a couple more words, right? Because I can remember, hark back to the times that we spent together in those moments, laughing and joking in the Ice Direct days. And then after the events, we used to work really hard and long, long days. You remember, you used to be out there in the sweat, hot. And then at the end, we used to go for a meal. So there was, everybody else was having a laugh and a joke and stuff. And then I used to be, I suppose, the contemplator. And myself and yourself, we used to get into real deep discussions. So I just want to touch a few things, if I can, and ask, you know, there's a depth to your character which a lot of people won't know. So I'm just going to ask you. So at this particular point in this interview, we always talk a bit about what we call our end of days. We call this our epitaph moment, yeah, or
Hmm.
principally a legacy. If there was such a thing as, and I do not wish this upon anybody, it's not going to happen anytime soon. I wish you wish 100 years. That's not what my point is. If you wanted to live that long, but I'm saying, in the epitaph, how would Binde Johal, you know, the actor, the performer, the brother, the son, the best friend, the husband, the father, the uncle, the light of life, the center of attraction in the parties from when you were younger,
Mm.
the amazing actor and student that you truly are of life. What sort of words of wisdom would you share? And I would say, if I may, what would that epitaph, what would somebody remember Binde Johal? It's the legacy words. What would you be remembered for?
Well, there's always a friend of mine said to me, Bindi, you know, you radiate in confidence, and I understood that as to mean what I bring to the table, what I bring to the world, I can show or teach them about. No matter what shape or size you are, you always bring in a radiation of confidence. And I always go to the saying, a quote, destiny is not a matter of choice, it's a matter of chance. It's not a thing to be waited for, it's a thing to be achieved. Um, and I've always, my life so far has been, touch wood, going along that kind of belief of destiny is to be achieved, and it's not a choice.
So to achieve it, to grab it and achieve it, as opposed to just sitting there back on your laurels and thinking it's a choice that I'm making. So it's there, enhance it, and grab it with both arms. Yes.
Absolutely, yeah. It's not. It's a matter of. It's a matter of chance. So exactly. It's instead of sitting on your laurels and missing out on opportunities, you have to be out there because it will pass you by quickly. You know, you'll
Mm,
know that in business, I'm sure, and
yeah.
I know that in my side of the world where I come from. You know,
So how would Bindi Johal be remembered? What would we say? Bindi Johal, the man who.
um, he came, he enjoyed, and he's achieved, and
He
humble.
came, he enjoyed, and he achieved. Wow. And I'm going to add something to that. I would say he radiated confidence and love. How's that?
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. I
Amazing. Bindi, I can't say much more to yourself than to say it's been a true humble pleasure to have you on the show. This is the Empower Hour, episode 55. I can't believe it's gone so fast, Bindi. Um, you know, I hope you've thoroughly enjoyed it as well. And I just want to thank you on behalf of myself, Sukhi Wahiwala, the Empower Hour show, and also the whole of the Salam Radio crew. And personally, thank you for being among the inspired tribe as well. And thank you for coming and being a guest for us and inspiring us and igniting us and emanating as you always do. I hope, have you got any last few words you want to share with anybody?
Yeah, you guys, thank you very much for having me, Sukhi. You know, you're a dear friend, you're a brother, and you know, I love you and love all your family and the group. If you want to get in touch with me, I'm at
Yeah.
for any mentoring, as Sukhi said, I'm going to be doing some. He's going to show me the art of mentoring, and I can't wait for us to go down to that venue. But you can get me at bindi.johal@hotmail.com.
So just repeat again. So if anybody wants a motivational speaker or anything of that sort of nature and acting and bits and bobs, please communicate and get hold of Bindi directly on Binde Johal. That's BINDE
Yeah,
Johal
.johal,
dot
JOHAL
at.
at hotmail.com.
And can they hit you up on Instagram or anything like that as well?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, bindi.johal.13ee.
13EE.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. And I'm not joking. Your journey, your light, you have been truly tremendous and a core part of my journey from when I was growing and inspiring people through the world through the sound and music. And I hope you enjoyed your sound in your own car at that time as well through Ice Direct and from our team. Bindi, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Sukhi.
Thank you very much. So, everybody else, this has been episode 55, and I truly hope that you've enjoyed the Empower Hour series, our series where we empower you to realize that, sometimes the journey of life isn't necessarily that easy, but you can get over it. And this is what Bindi's been talking about today. He is just a genuinely I can type person, and he emanates this love. I hope this has helped you. Please do like and subscribe to our channel, the Sukhi Wahiwala official content channel. Please share this interview with other people, and if there's anybody out there who you think who has that this conversation can inspire and touch, then please share this episode with them as well. So once again, I thank you all for tuning in on your weekly every Tuesday between 7 and 8 o'clock in the evening, every Tuesday evening on the Empower Hour show. See you next week. Thank you so much for joining us today. Bye.